The terror of Crab Island. When Apollinario opened his eyes that April morning, the silence weighed like lead. The boat rocked softly in the dark mud, but something was terribly wrong. His cousin Aureliano was screaming on the floor, his skin marked by burns that seemed to come from within. His brother Firmino was moaning in the stern, eyes swollen, unable to speak. And Jose was cold, dead. But nothing had caught fire. No flames, no trace. Just the terror of a night no one could remember. Tell us in the comments, which city are you watching from? Because what happened on Crab Island might be closer to you than you think. April 25, 1977. The Bay of São Marcos in Maranhão hid its secrets beneath murky waters and dense mangroves. Crab Island, Ilha do Caranguejo, was a forgotten piece of land, visited only by men desperate enough to tear a living from it. Wooden masts, crabs, nothing more. Jose Souza was 22 years old, strong muscles, robust health. His brothers Apollinario and Firmino, along with his cousin Aureliano, knew that island like the back of their hand. But knowing a place doesn't mean understanding it, and they were about to discover that some territories do not belong to men. The afternoon descended heavily as the sound of axes echoed through the undergrowth. Mosquitoes danced in thick clouds, sticking to the sweaty skin of the four men. Log after log, the pile grew. The work was hard, but familiar. At 6 in the evening, they stopped to eat. The tide was low, leaving the smaller boat stuck in the mud like a beached animal. There was no rush. The tide would return. It always did. They ate in silence, chewing flour and dried fish, their eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun began to die in shades of orange and blood red. At 8 o'clock at night, they lay down on the boat. The plan was simple: sleep until midnight, when the water would rise and they could load the logs onto the bigger boat. Jose curled up in the bow, Firmino in the front, Aureliano and Apollinario on the sides. Exhaustion embraced them quickly. Firmino's snoring mixed with the distant chorus of frogs. The island breathed around them, alive and obscure. But something else was also breathing. Something that was waiting. Something that watched them from the shadows among the mangroves, invisible and patient, awaiting the right moment to approach those sleeping, defenseless bodies. 5 in the morning. The rising sun tore through the sky, but brought no comfort. Apollinario awoke to a scream that wasn't his. Aureliano, his cousin, was lying in the bottom of the boat, far from where he had slept, writhing in pain. His hands trembled as he touched his own body, finding red, swollen marks that ran across his arms, chest, and back. Burns. But his shirt was perfect, without a tear, without a smudge of soot, as if something had passed through the fabric to mark only the flesh. Apollinario helped him sit up, but the questions died in his throat. There were no answers, only the growing horror. Then came the second sound, a low, almost animal groan, coming from the stern. Firmino. He should have been in the front, but he was in the back, lying on the floor, his body swollen as if he had been beaten by invisible hands. His skin hung in strips, irregularly burned, mainly on the left side. His eyes were closed, glued shut by the swelling. He did not respond, only moaned. Apollinario felt panic rise in his chest like ice water. How had two men changed places without waking up? How were they burned without fire? And Jose wasn't moving. Apollinario ran to his younger brother, shaking his shoulders, shouting his name. But the body was cold, stiff. Death had already been there for hours. Jose Souza, a 22-year-old man with no health problems, had died in his sleep. No marks, no blood, just dead. Apollinario fell to his knees, his hands shaking, his brain trying to process the impossible. 3 men had slept normally. 3 woke up in the wrong places, burned or dead. And he, Apollinario, was untouched. Why? What had happened that night? Why could he remember absolutely nothing? The tide was low again. The boat sank in the black mud as if the earth itself was trying to swallow them. There was no way out. Apollinario looked around, a dead brother, another unconscious, a cousin groaning in pain, and he, alone, healthy, with no explanation. 8 hours. He would have to wait 8 hours until the water returned. 8 hours staring at Jose's body. 8 hours listening to Firmino's moans. 8 hours feeling the weight of something invisible that still hovered over them. The sun climbed slowly, cruelly, turning the boat into a furnace. Mosquitoes attacked without mercy, but none of that mattered. Apollinario wet Firmino's forehead with lukewarm stream water, trying to keep him alive. Aureliano cried softly, hugging his knees, the burns stinging beneath the sun. Nobody spoke about the night, because none of them remembered it. It was as if someone had stolen hours of their lives, leaving behind only the consequences. When the tide finally rose, Apollinario started the engine with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The journey back was a silent nightmare, the boat cutting through dark waters as the smell of burnt flesh and death mixed with a salty sea breeze. The port appeared like a mirage. Apollinario left the others on the boat and ran 10 kilometers to São Luís, his legs burning, his lungs aching, but without stopping. He needed help. He needed the police. He needed to understand. When he returned with his older brother Pedrinho, it was already 9 at night. Firmino was rushed to the hospital, his body in shock. Aureliano, despite the unbearable pain, refused to leave Jose alone until the medical examiner's office arrived. Aureliano's burns were not deep, the doctors said. Simple treatment. He would soon be home. But Firmino fell into a coma. For 7 days, he floated between life and death, his brain shut down, his body fighting to repair itself. When he finally woke up, he spent another month hospitalized. Second-degree burns covered the left side of his body, mainly his ribs, arm, and forehead. The muscles in his left arm never worked properly again. And his memory, empty, completely empty. He murmured a single word before going into a coma. Fire. But what fire? There was no ash. There was no smoke. There was nothing burned except human flesh. And Jose. The body was too advanced. No autopsy. The doctor signed the death certificate. Cerebral vascular accident caused by hypertension as a consequence of some emotional shock. Emotional shock. What shock? From what? No one knew. The police searched the boat. They searched the island. They talked to the survivors, neighbors, and acquaintances. They looked for everything: alcohol, drugs, toxic gases, signs of a fight, marks of violence. Nothing. Zero. The boat was intact. No holes, no burn marks on the wood. The island was also normal, with no signs of fire, no charred trees, nothing out of place. How could 3 men be so severely affected without leaving a single physical trace? The head of criminal investigation was disturbed. He knew about crimes. He knew about accidents. But this was different. Inexplicable. Impossible. And then the reports began. Fishermen, local residents, ordinary people who had seen things in the skies and the waters, fireballs that moved intelligently, changing direction, accelerating, stopping in the air, lights that chased boats, objects that descended upon the islands and then vanished. The year 1977 was full of these sightings in Maranhão. The region was teeming with stories of strange phenomena, inexplicable encounters, and mysterious marks. A doctor suggested lightning, a storm, natural electrical discharges, but it hadn't rained. The sky was clear, and lightning would have destroyed the boat, burned the clothes, left obvious marks. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. Apollinario, the only one who woke up unharmed, began to fall ill in the following weeks. Weakness in his arm, excruciating headaches that made him scream, difficulty walking, his legs giving way as if they were no longer his own. Doctors found nothing. Normal exams, healthy body. But he knew something had been taken from him that night. Something invisible. Firmino recovered slowly, carrying scars and dead muscles. Aureliano saw his marks disappear over time, as if they had never existed. Years later, he returned to Crab Island, without fear, without hesitation, and nothing happened. But the memory never returned. They tried hypnosis, deep, intense. The 3 men underwent long sessions, searching for those lost hours. But their minds were white walls, empty, as if someone had carefully erased every second, every image, every sound of that night. They slept on the boat, and woke up in hell, Between those two moments, there was only darkness, a darkness that held secrets no human being should know. And Jose took his answers to the grave, a healthy, strong young man, full of life, dead from emotional shock. What horror did he see? What terror stopped his heart while he slept? 9 years later, April 28, 1986, another group of men went to Crab Island. Another night, other sleeping bodies. And when the sun rose, the story repeated itself with surgical precision. One dead, one burned, two mysteriously affected. The same questions, the same investigations, the same nothing. The cause of death? Inconclusive. The burns? Unexplained. The memory? Erased. It was as if something on that island was hungry. A hunger that woke up every decade, choosing its victims randomly, marking them in different ways, but always leaving the same trace of terror and confusion. What lives on that island? What hovers over those dark waters when night falls? Are they the fireballs that so many saw, descending from the skies in impossible movements? Are they experiments that no one wants to admit? Or is it something much older, much stranger, that was there before men and will be there after we are all gone? Jose Souza can no longer answer. Firmino lost a part of himself. Aureliano carried invisible scars. Apolinario fell ill without explanation. And 9 years later, other men went through the same nightmare. Crab Island guards its secrets beneath the black mud and dense mangroves. And perhaps it is better that way. You, who are watching now, think about this. How many times have you slept and woken up without remembering anything? How many nights are blank in your memory? What if something was happening during those lost hours? What if you, just like Jose and his companions, were being visited, observed, marked in ways you cannot see or understand? Crab Island is in Maranhão, but the skies are the same everywhere. And the fireballs, they don't respect borders. This case remains unsolved. The police closed the file. The doctors gave explanations that explain nothing. The survivors went on with their broken lives. And Jose is in a cemetery in São Luís, dead from an emotional shock that no one knows what it was. Perhaps we will never know the truth. Perhaps the truth is too good or too terrible to be revealed. But one thing is certain, on that April night in 1977, something happened. Something that changed 4 lives forever. Something that returned 9 years later. And perhaps it is returning again. If this story has kept you awake, if you felt a chill run up your spine, if you looked out the window imagining lights in the sky, then subscribe. Because this channel exists to tell the stories that no one else wants to hear. The stories that were filed away, forgotten, buried, but which continue to happen, night after night, on deserted islands, on solitary boats, in places where darkness is more than the absence of light. It is the presence of something more. Something that watches us. Something that waits. Something that, perhaps, has already visited you. Until the next case, if there is a next one.